bit of a delay, lots of technology, so it's a little few minutes, but we have a lot of air built in today's schedule, so we should be good. We have seating for really the participants. So if you are a parent, if you could offer up your seat to one of the participants who is going to be standing, that would be awesome, because I will guarantee you, by the end of the day today, the participants will be exhausted. So they should sit now.
There's a seat over here, by the way.
Cool. So welcome, everybody. Welcome to Berklee and welcome to Boston. We're welcoming you to their inaugural Electronic Production and Design Weekend Workshop. In past years, we've shared this with our sister department, Music Production Engineering, and this year we wanted to do one that was exclusively for people involved in electronic music production and sound design. The department that is hosting this electronic production design began in about 1986 as the Music Synthesis Department. And it was really the first place in the world where you could go and get a college degree in working with synthesizers. And at that time, Berklee felt it was really important for contemporary musicians to be studying the technologies and the tools of the time. And so that's when we got started as a department. And over the years, the department has really kind of been surfing the technology wave. So as every wave comes over, whether it be digital audio, whether it be programming, we've kind of embraced it here in electronic production and design. So I think this weekend what you're going to find is really just about anything that you'd be interested in terms of technology, in terms of making music with computers, in terms of doing sound design computers, all sorts of things you will find it here. My name is Michael Burillo. I'm the chair of the Electronic Production and Design Department here. I will be around all weekend, and if anybody has any questions about the program, that would be awesome. We have a number of faculty who will be doing presentations. Feel free to talk to them, to pick their brains, and they're here to help you. So a few things just to kind of give you some overviews about what we're doing this weekend. We've really taken a look at the weekend and divided it into three big topics. The first one is going to be electronic music production, and that's going to be, most of the topics will be today, we'll be covering that. Now this is kind of a gray area because some of these things, production, performance, kind of the same thing in some ways. So each of these days will have a keynote from DiViNCi, and he will be talking about just addressing the day's theme. So today is going to be electronic music production. Tomorrow will be performance. And on Sunday, we traditionally do a focus on careers. So from the keynote, everybody should be at the keynotes. This is really kind of super important information and overview, and just to get you inspired about the topic. From there, we have a number of sessions. And we have seats for everybody at these sessions. So the thing to remember is take a look at your program and outline what your first choice might be, and then take a look at what your second choice might be. So the things that we saw as big overarching topics, we've cited over in 22 the Fenway, room 112, which you all, I think, went to see on your tour. That room has the largest capacity, and we'll be talking about big general topics like producing electronic music, like mixing and mastering, things that many people will be interested in. So from there, we have smaller breakout sessions that are in the electronic production and design area, which is right around the corner from here, the different labs. And these are going to go into more specific things. There'll be a track on sound synthesis. So today I'll be doing something on modular synthesis, which is going to give you some basics about how all synthesizers work. There'll be a session on sampling, which will talk about how you record for sampling and how you program sampled instruments. So that's one thing that we'll be doing today. There'll be electronic music production seminars today. One of the things that we'll be doing over the weekend will be kind of a future-facing series of events with my colleague, Dr. Richard Boulanger. And these are going to be things that really represent the future of what this field has to offer. And many of the students here in the program go on to grad school, do some really interesting things, and go out in the world and really kind of make companies, work for companies like Apple, work for companies like Isotope. And so some of the things that they do here at Berklee are things that they take out in the world. So the things that Dr. B is working with this weekend are things that are a little bit more cutting edge. There are 2 sections of circuit bending. Those are 2 identical sections, so just go to one of them. That would be great. The performance things that we're doing tomorrow, there's going to be a number of different sessions. One of them on the Ableton Push. One of them will be on the Rolly Seaboard Rise. So different types of controllers, different ways of performing live. In the afternoon, we'll be doing a session with 2 of my colleagues, Jeff Boust and David Doms. And they have a session that they do composing and performing with Ableton Live, and really look at how you think about composing and improvising in electronic format. So there's lots of different things to go to. In the evening, things are going to be a little bit less structured. So you'll be a little bit on your own, and all the sessions are really meant to be open lab time. So they'll be proctored in many cases. So this evening, I'm doing something with Dr. B on modular synthesizers. We're going to show you a few things, but we want you to get in there and get your hands on stuff. There'll be a session on just getting started with Ableton Live tonight. There'll be sessions on being a DJ. There's a session tonight on vinyl. For those of you who are interested in records, we have a huge, huge collection in our DJ lab that you'll get a chance to check out. So again, lots of different things to look at. Now, one of the most important things you want to think about this weekend, it's your opportunity to network. And that's a fancy way of saying make friends. You all here are doing kind of the same thing, and people from around the country, around the world are involved in electronic music production. And this is a great idea to share ideas. This is a great time to share ideas with your peers. So to facilitate that, every night, tonight and tomorrow night, we're having something that we're calling an electronic music open mic. Now, there will be no microphones, but it will be an opportunity for you to bring your tracks, whether it's on your phone, whether it's on your laptop, whether you want to pull something off of SoundCloud and listen to it. But the room B54 will be open for you just to hang out and just play the stuff that you're producing on and share it with your friends. So that's going to be hopefully a really good opportunity for you guys just to get to know each other. So let me just ask, we know nothing about you coming into Berklee. So first of all, how many of you are from Massachusetts? Cool. How many of you are from not Massachusetts, but New England? Okay. How many of you are from outside of the New England area? Wow. Okay, that's great to know. How many of you are from outside the United States? Wow, welcome. Welcome to Boston, welcome to Massachusetts, welcome to the United States, and welcome to Berklee. How many of you are already active producers? Cool. How many of you have stuff on SoundCloud? How many of you have made some money doing this? Yeah, the plan goes right up there. Good, entrepreneurial spirit. How many of you started out on Fruity Loops? Come on, you admit it. Okay, sorry. Let me ask this again. How many of you started out on FL Studio Pro? Okay, it's a little bit different. How many of you currently use Ableton Live? Cool. How many of you identify as DJs? How many of you have made money as DJs? Good. It's a great way to pay your way through college. So that's great. So yeah, this is really good to know, and I think you guys are going to have a great time this weekend. So this year, for our keynote speaker, we're thinking about what's coming up at Berklee. And we have something that we're calling the EDI program, which will start 1 year from this September. And with the EDI, we are going to invite people to come and audition and interview to come to Berklee with essentially the computer as their principal instrument. So Berklee is a music school. To get into a music school, you have to audition. So to audition, you typically will have a traditional instrument. At Berklee, a traditional instrument is a pretty wide range of things. It can be a bass, it can be a guitar. It can be a keyboard, it can be your voice, it can be all sorts of different things, but up until now, it can't be a computer. So with the EDI program, what we are doing is we're offering people the opportunity to come and audition as what we're calling EDI players. So this is not a producer, this is somebody who actually uses the computer to perform in some way. And so we're defining this as a computer of some sort, software of some sort, and some sort of controller that allow you to interact either with other musicians or an audience. So it's a really, really broad term. And so we're kind of curious to see who's going to actually audition. But we're really excited about what they're going to bring to the college because we're seeing this as a tremendous opportunity. And I think those of you sitting here kind of understand something kind of from a gut level, that the line between producing music and performing music is getting pretty thin. The same stuff that you're using to produce music with, you're going out and performing it with. And so that's the type of thing that we're going to be looking at in this program. With that in mind, this year's keynote speaker really epitomizes this. DiViNCi is somebody who has embraced the idea of producing music physically. It's not sitting down passively at a machine and letting the machine do it. He really physically produces music. And he's really been kind of at the forefront of recognizing that the tools that you use to produce music are the same things that you can go out in front of an audience and perform with. And he has developed a very high art in doing this. So I think we've invited him this weekend to join us to talk about his approach to producing music, how that translates into performing music, and then how you think about doing this for a living. Now, I first saw DiViNCi a couple years ago at Ableton Loop in Berlin. And I gotta say, I was really impressed at how articulate he was about his art, his craft, but also the connection between who he is as a person and his craft and his art, which I think is a very important thing for all of us to think about. We're gonna be talking a lot this weekend about technology, but this is really an art form, and this is a way for you to express yourself. And I think one of the things that you'll hear from DiViNCi is that in order to do that, you have to take care of yourself. You have to really kind of be connected with who you are and really use technology as a tool to kind of express yourself. So I have talked enough, and I'd like to introduce to everybody our guest from Orlando, Florida, DiViNCi.
My name's DiViNCi. I'm a music producer and performer based out of Orlando, Florida. I worked with Miss Lauryn Hill as well as my group, Soliloquist of Sound, and I use Ableton Live as the centerpiece of my live setup, as well as a whole lot in the studio. My original influence to get into music was hip-hop, so I started to really research what hip-hop producers were using, and they were using Akai MPCs at the time, so that's what I got into. It wasn't until I started to take my production tools to the stage that I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what feels really good, because it was just quicker, it was more carnal, and I just had a raw energy about it. To put it short, I think performing unleashed a beast in me, and that beast got real hungry real quick. So from one MPC grew to 2 MPCs, and then I started using 3 MPCs on stage. I kept hitting limits. It wasn't until I got introduced to Ableton Live that I thought, wow, I don't ever see myself hitting a limit again. Over the last 4 years, I've been integrating Ableton Live more and more into my setup, and because of that, I found that I didn't have to have a separate persona on stage than in the studio. And now, whether I'm on stage or in the studio, it always feels like I'm performing, and I always have that great, carnal, visceral energy that I enjoy to perform with.
appreciate not only being here, but also speaking to you guys every morning of these really awesome 3 days. So I'd like to give it up for Berklee putting this on, because this is really awesome, as well as asking me to be here. So thank you very much. Okay, so, you know, I have this whole thing planned, right? And while I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, this is the first day. I know I'm supposed to like do more of the performance stuff tomorrow, but you guys just got here, right? Like, you've been doing tours and stuff like that. And I did sound check like a couple seconds ago, you know, or a couple minutes ago rather. And I didn't really get into sound check as much as I'd like. So I was thinking I could kill two birds with one stone, and kind of to set things off, I'd do a little performance really quick. I know performance is tomorrow, but how's that sound to you guys? If I just kind of go into it. All right. We got audio going here. We ought to. Yes, we do. We so do. Okay, 1 second. Again, this wasn't really planned. This wasn't part of the gig for today. But I said, why not? Okay. Okay, let's see. You know what? That's not working, is it? We're gonna have to look at that. So this is what happens when you decide to change things up in the last minute, but I like that, you know? All right, so here we go. Let's see if it doesn't work, it's awesome. Because then you get a front row pass to seeing me deal with mistakes. These things aren't on. All right, let's see where we're at.
There we go.
Get out of here.
There we go.
Sleep inside to me. No, no, no. In dreams and this voice which calls to me. No, no, no. And speaks my name. And do I dream again? No, no, no. And now I fall. No, 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 no. The phantom of hip-hop is there inside my mind.
I was lying. That was mostly for me. Now I just wanted to, okay, all right, now I gotta calm down. Because now I'm in hit things mode. Okay. Whew. I forgot about that part. Forgot it's, yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to do that because while Michael was talking, I was thinking to myself, man, this is so cool of an event. Like, I don't want to come out and just talk, right? I want to set it off, hit the Titanic with the, well, maybe not the Titanic, hit the boat with the bottle, right? So as the video would suggest, and as that talk suggested, or the performance suggested rather, I kind of tap into something when I perform. I call it the beast, right? And for that reason, I named this series of talks that I'll be doing over the next 3 days, Unleash the Beast. And with Unleash the Beast, I've been thinking about how to describe what the beast is to you, right? The beast to me is basically the flow. And I'll really get into that tomorrow. But the flow, in a nutshell, is kind of just losing yourself in what you're doing, right? The reason why I chose to perform first is because when I perform, it's the freest I've found myself to be, right? And that's the beast. The beast to me is freedom. Creative freedom, freedom in doing whatever you want and following and trusting yourself at every moment. Now, how does that relate to what we're doing? Well, I'm spending my time in these talks talking about that because throughout the rest of the day, you're going to get so much technical information. And I thought, man, with all these things going on, how can I kind of add to that, right? And I thought, well, the best thing that I think I could do is tell you guys about all the stuff between the technical information. The stuff that helps me approach it day after day, most of my life, and to be here 20-something years later, still doing what I love and still loving it. That's a skill. And I'm interested in breaking the technical aspects down to that, right? Because that's not always taught. To do something for the rest of your life, every day, and love it at every moment. And I do. And because I've seen so many people struggle with being a creator, being a musician, being an artist, I thought, well, years ago I thought, this is what needs to be focused on. How can we maintain our love for what we're doing so that we can be the most successful version of whatever that is, whatever type of artist that is to you, whatever success means to you. How do you do that? Because the technical stuff's easy. You learn the technique, and then you just practice it forever. And the more you practice it, the more you get better at it, right? That's simple. See, I was a martial artist first. So that's what my first language was and is. And that's what I learned from martial arts. Martial arts is awesome because it's this practice that you just do for the rest of your life. You never master it, and you hope to never use it. It's interesting that way. It's a practice you do for the rest of your life that you never master and hope to never use. What? What do you do with that? Well, you just do it. And I'm kind of giving away the secret here. What you love, you just do it. You don't think about it too much. You just follow your instincts with it, and you do it. And you love practicing it. And that's how you get further down the path that you chose for yourself, as well as become more successful, both in art and in the business of sharing your art or selling it. So that's really important. These things are really, really important. I'm talking about stuff that you can only understand through experience, not through talking. So why am I talking about it? Well, you guys have a ways to go in your career, I would imagine, hopefully. You know, hopefully you're going to be doing this for a long time. So, or just in your art, depending if you want to make a career out of it or not. And because of that, along the way, maybe some of the things that I'm discussing today, tomorrow, and the next day will be something, oh yeah, that's that, right? Be a little bit more prepared for it. So today, Unleash the Beast, we're focusing on what? Being in the studio and producing, right? So, a lot of questions were asked. I kind of took notes. One question wasn't asked. The people who have been making music and been involved in music, raise your hand. Probably should be most of you, right? You, how long have you been doing it?
I was like 12. I'm 16 now.
12. For 4 years, since you were 12, 16 now. Yes?
I started piano when I was 2.
Oh, nice. This isn't competition, by the way. It's just, any answer is good for me. And how old are you now?
15.
Wow. That's 3 years. Wait, did I get that right? 2 to 15? No. I have to get my calculator. I'm joking. So you guys at varying levels have been making music for, you know, some time. Now, can I go back to you? Why do you make music?
Well, I started doing this because I've been singing and in music since I was like really little because I was in choir and stuff like that. But then I started doing this because it was like I wanted to like keep going with it, and I liked the idea of a random sound could become music. I like that idea.
So you're intrigued by the sound,
Yeah.
right? You?
I connected with music in a different way where I could express myself through it, and so producing was just the next step to take it to a bigger idea than more than just one instrument combined together.
You. Yeah, with the glasses on your head. Do you not know that you have glasses on your head? No, it's fine. Why do you make music?
I make music because I found music a way to express myself, and when I'm angry or when I think it's just good to
Okay.
I understand.
So back to you. Where do you hope to go with music?
I just want to make it my career because I know it's the one thing in life that like I'm always happy doing. Like I never get bored of it, and I just want to like continue to like never get bored with it. And music is always going to be around, and it's just like you said, it's just another language that we all learn.
Right. That's awesome. And you? Where do you hope to go with it?
I hope to share it with. So it's a passion of mine, and I hope to practice my skill and get better at it, but then also share it with others. Yeah.
This is a good question for everybody. Does anyone here hope to make a career of involving music? Okay. All right, cool. The reason I'm asking these things is I'm genuinely curious about it, but also they're questions that I wish I asked myself every day as a creator from when I started. Because when I started, I kind of thought, well, I really enjoy inventing something. You know, I wanted to be an inventor first. So when music came into my life, I was like, oh, this is inspirational to me. it's engaging to me, it's compelling, and I get to invent things if I make it, awesome. And I kind of just went on autopilot for years out of that. And I assumed a lot of things. I assumed that I wanted to make a career of it, that I wanted to go the route that I've seen a lot of other people go. But had I checked in with myself along the way, which I did, I would have really been able to lay out like, oh my goodness, these things are taking more shape as I go. It's not just inventing sound, it's actually inventing feeling, okay? And it's not just having a career out of it, but what does that career look like? It doesn't look like anybody else that I'm following right now. And those kinds of things happened just out of happenstance and just following my passion in the first place. But I wanted to mention these things because on your journey as a creator, I guarantee that maybe it won't change your compulsions involving making music, but I'm sure that they'll become more clear and take new definition. So along your journey, definitely think about that. Because for me, there was a bunch of things that popped up along my way. You know, I started because I wanted to be an inventor. I then went in more to it because I realized I wanted to be a producer and I wanted to make a career of it. I also, like in the last 5 or 6 years, realized how much I don't at all, how do I say this, care about music. More so than I care about my original art, which is martial arts. And music is a weapon that I use in expressing myself. Again, my first language was martial arts. My father was teaching me before I could walk. And I didn't realize that was such a big motivator in my life until many years later, and I realized, oh my goodness, music is martial arts to me. That's why I say I don't really care about music as a standalone thing. Martial arts is like my life, and music is one of those things that I pick up and use in my art of martial arts. So that's an important revelation to have, right? Because aligning with your purpose of why you're doing this really helps you to focus in and go hard on your goals regarding the art that you're taking part in. So, just wanted to make that note at the beginning here. When you're moving forward, always check in with yourself. Because it's easy to forget why you started doing this 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line. You know, there's a lot of things happening and you're like, oh, I love music, I'll do this. There's this music thing happening, I'll do this. But not all of that's for you. And I hadn't known that, but I still followed those rules. Because of that, got to like kind of blaze my own trail. And I think it's really important that everyone in this room do the same thing. Blaze your own trail because we need it. We need unique voices. Everything that you do becomes an example for other people. And when you do what you do in the way that only you can do it, well then you're inspiring other people to do the same thing for them. And you're giving people more options of how they define themselves just by your example. When I started, there was music producer, rapper, because I got involved in hip hop, right? And that was pretty much it. Beat maker, rapper. So I didn't think about performing and all these other things. I found it, which is awesome. But man, I think sometimes like, man, if all these other lanes were available, how much quicker would I have identified with, oh no, that's what I want to do, right? So, I wanted to show you guys. Does anyone, most people in here, are you guys recording your music on computers? Using DAWs and stuff like that? Does anyone use like phones or iPads to make music? Cool. All right. I wanted to share this. This is a picture taken, says 98. That's 20 years ago. Wait, no. Is that 20? It is 20. Jeez Louise. Okay, so this is a typical studio, home studio 20 years ago. And I show this because a lot of things have changed with the actual gear. You know, there's a big drum machine, a 4-track recorder, no computer, a Yamaha keyboard, a little effects processor, you know, a record player to sample from and things like that. But a lot hasn't changed. This is actually my studio when I was 14, 15 years old, okay? And that drum machine, I got a summer job at a retirement home, worked all summer to get that. That 4-track recorder, which records 4 tracks on a cassette tape, if you know what that is, my family actually traded a car for it. Yeah, thanks to my family. I had a friend of the family, and we were like getting rid of this old car, and he needed a car, and he was like, I got this. And I was like, yes, make that trade, you know. Before that, I was using a karaoke machine. The reason I bring this up is I worked with what I had, right? And working with what you have hasn't changed, right? That's a dynamic that I hope you continually use in the studio, is to work with what you have. The skill set that you currently possess, the gear that you currently possess, the ambition that you currently possess, and the thoughts and inspiration that you currently possess, the ideas. Always work with what you have. It's easy to look at somebody else's setup or things that you want to get in the future and be like, you know what, if I had that, I could make this. But you can also make it with what you have. We have phones. We have crazy, crazy phones that you can make whole albums on, right? You don't need much, right? So I wanted to bring that up to mention that. And this reminds me when I first got into producing electronic music. For me, electronic music then meant hip-hop. I had a really big passion for hip-hop music back in the day. And from that, from that, I found a passion to produce, because up until that point, like I said, I wanted to be an inventor, and music didn't really interest me because when I saw bands playing, I was like, well, I can hear the drums, I can hear the guitar, I know what bass sounds like. It wasn't really interesting to me because as an inventor, I could reverse engineer it really easily, right? I was like, I know how that was done. Not impressive. That's kind of dumb. You know, it doesn't have to be a mystery for it to be impressive. But, you know, I was 12, 13 years old. No offense. 12, 13 years. That was me. But I realized, like, okay, that's cool, but there's nothing, like, really mysterious about it to me. And that's what really intrigued me, was the invention of it, like the mystery of it. And when I heard hip-hop, I remember listening to my headphones and being like, well, I have no idea how they made that sound, right? I'd hear a sound, and it sounded like kind of like a chain dragging on the floor. And I'd think to myself, wow, they must have, like, dragged a chain on the floor and sampled it and put it in the music. Why'd they do that? You know, it doesn't necessarily sound good, but it still intrigued me. So it was from that, I was like, I want to be able to do this. I want to be able to make these kind of sonic mysteries and produce. So I did some research into what the artists that I really enjoyed were using to make music, and I started making music. Made a lot of different purchases of gear that were not right, you know. I got a MIDI sequencer that by itself is useless, you know, thinking that I could make music with it, but it just recorded metadata. So I had to return that. I wanted to be a turntablist, so I got turntables, but they were the kind where the platter shakes a lot, so I couldn't scratch on it. So I made a lot of mistakes. I was very ignorant back then. But my ignorance, in retrospect, was a gift. And I think this, as a general rule, ignorance should be valued highly. Because not knowing something is infinite. As soon as you think you know it, finite, right? Stop thinking about it. You know, you stop exploring because, oh, I know where that goes. I don't need to go there, right? But when I thought that they drug a chain on the floor and sampled it, I was ignorant because they surely did not do that. But because that's how I thought the music that was intriguing me was made, when I got a sampler, that's exactly what I did. Got a microphone, dragged the chain on the floor, and recorded it, made music out of it. Then I thought, wow, I wonder what other stuff I could sample. And I started banging on things and recording, sampling it, all these things. I later found out that that chain was just the rapper's necklace, like jiggling while he was rapping. Because later as I knew more, I was like, oh, that's what that is. And at that point, you know, I started realizing a lot of the things that were really interesting to me that I thought were done a certain way were totally not done that way. And mostly just accidents from sampling. You know, loops, right? Some of the tracks that I thought were meticulously chopped up and done in such a way were just 2 or 4 bar loops, looped with no drums added or anything. Just the original song looped. And when I realized these things, I was like, ah, that's fascinating. A lot of people, a lot of my peers realized those things and they were like, ah, man, he cheated. And they were really disappointed. I wasn't disappointed because I had already spent years sampling chains on the floor, so to speak. And because of that, because of my ignorance of how it was done, I got a skill set that none of my peers actually had, right? Because they actually knew how things were done, right? I didn't. And my ignorance guided me in a way, again, that was my own bespoke path as a producer. Years and years later, I got to jump forward, when I got called to work with Lauryn Hill, Miss Lauryn Hill, someone I work with often still, I became, at first she just wanted me to do like finger drumming stuff on stage with her, but we hit it off, and she's then, what she does with people she likes is she starts trying different hats on them. You know what? Band leader. Yeah, that looks good. Since that looks good, what about programmer? Yeah, that works. How about tutor? How about this? How about that? You know, and I was happy to do it because it seemed that all the things that I had practiced all these years were really useful to her, especially in the studio. She'd come in, and she's super creative, and she'd say, man, this kick is nice, but I almost want it to sound like deep and kind of like organic, like the croak of a frog. I'd be like, everyone in the room would be like, you know, and I'd be like, I know how to do that, right? So I was like developing this skill set that years later, in a room full of really sought after programmers and really awesome people, I was the only one who knew how to do it because I'd practiced it for years. And I say this to say, keep your ignorance, please. It's super, super valuable, and you have no idea how much. You might find out, you might be lucky enough to find out how valuable it is someday. But, you know, we go into producing music or into any art that we do, and we have this kind of set path of, you know, this is how I want to ride my career into the future. This is the path that I want to take. But what you don't account for is all the mistakes you're going to make and all the successes that are going to come from going through those mistakes. Super, super important. Your ignorance makes you make a lot of mistakes. And the real reason why ignorance holds value is because mistakes are the most valuable thing that you can have as a producer or as a creator. You know, you go on the internet and there's 20 million different videos, so many thousands of different videos that focus on music, maybe more than that, and hundreds of videos that answer the same questions. If you have anything that you're trying to figure out, you can go on there and you can find dozens or hundreds of videos answering your question. That's cool. However, it's limiting. I didn't have that. I had this. And with this and this, I thought, like this was my Google, right? Okay, I'm going to have to do this. How do I do that? Okay, well, I could try this, right? That is everything. And that's what makes the music you guys love the most. I guarantee you, the music that really touches you guys wasn't a paint by numbers. It was a paint by ignorance and mistakes and just going through the process. Sure, added in years and years of practice for some and, you know, some actual training and some skill. I'm sure it gets peppered into there as well. But the stuff that really stands out to you is the stuff that comes from these mistakes. So collect as many of those mistakes, collect as many of those failures. Seek them out as much as possible because those you can't plan for and they're more valuable than anything that you could plan for. But you have to approach them right. You can't just have failure and then beat yourself up about it. No. Just like when I failed, you got to be like, that's fascinating. That's awesome. Let's chase it. Because when you chase a failure, you find what's best. When you chase what you want and a success, you only find what's better. Best is better than better. So when you get a failure and you go through it, you find something that trumps everything else that you could ever have hoped to look for. So, my way of approaching things back then, I had all these ideas of, well, I'm going to make music this way. And I hear this other song, and I'm like, that must have been made this way. So I'm going to make music this way. And I gathered all these skills, and it led me down a path of finding tons of different ways to make music. And again, years and years later, that became a bespoke skill that only I had amongst other people in the room. And it got me to a place of, you know, fulfillment, not just in my career, but in my life, that I could have never prepared for. But I had to start somewhere, right? And where I started with most of it was, okay, hip hop, right? Now, what I do now, I don't necessarily consider hip hop music. I don't really know what to call it. But starting with hip hop was really awesome because it was very experimental for the time. And when I would sit down to make a beat, it was this unconventional way of, you know, chopping samples as opposed to just like playing music. That really intrigued me because I didn't have any musical training. I've, you know, trained through experience. And again, I think led a lot by my ignorance of how I thought things were done. I just wanted to, you know, maybe illustrate some sort of way that I want to discuss a couple techniques of starting a track. So I have this, I have like tons and tons of vinyl archived onto my computer. And I just loaded one up Let's hear it. I'll turn this up. So this is a way that I'd start a track. I'll go in here and then kind of auto chop it. And back in the day, I didn't have the auto chop. I had to do everything myself. And again, that's a skill that I recommend people trying out instead of just letting the algorithm chop it for you. Get in there and get tedious with it. The amount of tedium that you're willing to withstand is something that could be a gift as well. Patience, right? For me, a lot of people would hear some of the tracks that I make and come back to me and say, man, how'd you do that? And I'd show them how to do that, and they were like, why did you do that? That's ridiculous. And at that point, I'd be like, it's the only way I thought to get the thing done. And they were like, you know, you could do this, and then this, and this. And I was like, yeah, but then I wouldn't have this, like this. And they were like, oh, that's true. So my tedium became a gift as well. Let's see. So I just chopped it up really quick. Thank you. As you can see, it's really easy for me to get lost in what I'm doing here. But that's appropriate, right? Unleashing the beast means getting lost in what you're doing, right? So what started as just me wanting to show you the typical way I would start making a track back in the day turned out to be a demonstration of how I make tracks today, right? So I would have a particular idea. Well, I want to start with a sample. Now I'm going to do that. And when I started with that sample, I started playing something, and what I did is I turned this 4/4 track into actually like a 6/8 just by speeding it up and playing it a certain way. So I was like, okay, I'll make a 6/8 beat out of this. And then once I did that, it kind of just was like, well, now I want to jam on it. And there's a ton of different ways to start a track. And it can go so many different ways, where you start noodling around with it, you start jamming to it, you start really kind of obsessing over it and figuring out how to finish it, right? Starting tracks is easy. Starting beats is easy. But there's the eternal question that gets to, which is, how do you know when a track's finished? Any answers to that? That's great.
Because it's out there, right? And people have already listened to it. Even though you're going to fix it on your computer,
Yeah.
people are still going to listen to it, and when they play it, you're going to hear and be like, oh, wait, that's wrong. I don't like that. Or, wait, can we change that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. That's a great answer. Class over. Leave. No, I mean, I have an answer for it. It's similar. How do you know? You don't, right? You, don't know when it's done. Not here, at least. And, like you said, it's never done, right? And that's fine. In interviews all the time, they ask producers, well, how do you know when a track's finished? And there's a lot of right answers. You feel it. Again, you're not knowing it here. You can know it here. You feel when it's done. And a lot of people just answer it like, I don't know, Well, you don't know. You have no idea where that beat that you started, that track that you started, is going to evolve to if you allow it to, or de-evolve to. There's no wrong answer to it. Every answer that you give yourself in your practice is right? As long as you keep working at it and make a decision on it. And, finishing tracks is like kind of that thing that haunts a lot of people. A lot of people, some of you might resonate with this, have a bevy of tracks just sitting on your hard drive that you're just like, yeah, I'll get to that one day. Or you look at it and you're like, man, it would be nice if I did this, right? More often than not, you kind of use the word should. I should finish these. Did anyone do that? Yeah, stop that. Stop that, please. Because why? I'm going to give you a little life hack real quick. This goes for your career, for everything that you do. Get the word should out of your vocabulary. As a producer, as a creator, as a musician, as a mother, father, daughter, sister, brother, son, anything. Get should out of the way. It has no place, and it's always false. I should do this. Why? Why should you do that? There's no reason ever. You're making up this obligation, right? But then you say, well, I should brush my teeth, right? No, you shouldn't. It's in your best interest to. But why? If your goal is to have your teeth for the rest of your life, then yeah, it's in your best interest to do it. But you see, that's a very big difference in language that makes a very big difference in how you treat yourself. Should. What? For what? There's no, give me something where should works, and I will debunk it I promise. If you have one, I'm ready. No? Okay. Yes?
I have a question.
Oh,
No, 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 no.
okay.
Should. You're saying should be totally out, but is there ever a place where should be used?
Before an apostrophe and NT in the sentence that you shouldn't use the word. No, again, I'm not saying you shouldn't or should use it. I'm just saying don't.
What you replace it?
That's the question.
Gonna? Will?
Wait, hold on. That's the question. Did everyone hear that? He said, what do you replace it with? That's it. You know, fantastic. What you replace it with, you could use could, you know. Yeah, you could use could. You could use would. My favorite, though, is want. That is the one with the most benefit, okay? Don't use should. Instead, use want. And then things become really clear at that point. Here's what happens. I should brush my teeth. Oh yeah, not supposed to use should. I want to brush my teeth. Wait, that's not true. I just want to stay in bed and watch TV right now. But you're not considering all of what you want. Do you also want your teeth? You know? Do you want to be able to talk to someone without offending them? Right? Up close? Want is bigger than what you want in the moment. Want is a whole package deal of choices that you have to make, right? I want that cupcake, right? But I shouldn't eat it. Why? Again, shouldn't. Why? Why shouldn't you eat it? Well, because I want to stay in shape. Now, here's where the choice comes. Do you want the cupcake more than you want to stay in shape? Or do you want to stay in shape more than you want the cupcake? Oh my gosh, I got to sit down for this. I don't know. No, think about it. Would you rather be in shape or eat that cupcake right now? Sometimes it's clear. Well, I'd rather be in shape. I'm going to do that. I don't want the cupcake because it's not part of what I want more. I want to be in shape more. More often than not, people are going to be like, no, I'm really having an existential crisis right now. I want both things. How is this possible? I can't decide if it's 49.9% cupcake or 51% cupcake. I can't really decide. Well, then it's fine. You don't have to decide. Just tell yourself you want both equally. You can have both. You can have the cupcake and be in shape. Well, how do you do that? How do you have your cake and eat it too, so to speak? Your cupcake and eat it too. Well, you have to introduce other things. I'm going to eat that cupcake because I want it. And I'm going to stay in shape because I want that too. But to get that cupcake, I'm going to run instead of drive there. And I figured it out. Between here and the cupcake place, I'm going to burn more calories, even with the cupcake, than if I wouldn't have had the cupcake at all. So now, you can lose weight eating a cupcake. Bam. You're welcome. I just imagine like that being the highlight of this talk. What'd you learn this weekend? I found out how to eat cupcakes and lose weight. Where do you sign up for that magical summit? No, but that's how you do it. Allow yourself to want both. Because when you allow yourself to want something and stop getting in the way of yourself with should, then you start to realize, well, I do want this. There's no denying that. How do I give it to myself? And then you're smart enough. You can figure it out. There's ways to give yourself both. And this is what I really want to impart to you as a creator. Don't sit there and should yourself, because when you're sitting there shoulding yourself, you're spending time in your head and getting away from creativity. You know what I mean? The other part of that, the reason why I like the word want, is because it teaches you, just by practicing it, that what you want is important. And that's so true. You know, a lot of our parents' parents, they were taught from a very early age, as were we, that what we want isn't necessarily important. The world kind of teaches us that. It's false. It's false. It's just as false as should. What you want is everything, because it's that voice in you that's leading you down a path. Even if that path is to a mistake, that mistake is a doorway to what you ultimately really, really want. It's in everyone's best interest to use want instead of should, because you're going to start to trust yourself and trust that what you want is important. And you'll be like the most successful person in life, career, or anything that you want to do when you trust yourself. That's how you show the world your path, your skill, your style, your own personal voice. That's how you show it. By trusting that the thing in here is telling you the right thing. So, yes, you can use should wherever you want. But do you want to use should? I don't think it's in your best interest. Wow, I keep deviating here. But these are really important things to me. These are the things that when you go forth today and the rest of this weekend, you're going to look at things and be like, wow, this is great information. Take it, but also take it with this, because this is the way that you're going to be able to use that information to your ultimate benefit. All right? Also, I know we're different on time. Just so I have an idea when we're supposed to be ending, when would that be? 15 more minutes. Wow. Okay, cool. Let's get into some tracks that I have finished, okay? Okay. So, let's do this. Now we know better for tomorrow what we need. All right. So, unfinished tracks. For years, I worked with a guy who loved completed tracks, ones that weren't going to change after his vocals were on it, right? And I love him for it because it taught me how to really go in and arrange tracks without anything else as a reference, right? But then I started to think, this is the only way to do things. I have to put out tracks that just add water or vocals to it, and boom, song is done. But I always had this compulsion to make just little 2-bar loops, that did no drums, nothing. And you know what? I shoulded myself, right? Where I said, I should finish this. And I had hundreds of these tracks that I should finish. And the guilt and the beating myself up weighed down on me to a point where I never even looked at them again. Until I realized that should doesn't exist. And I was like, or it has no importance really. And I was like, oh, you know what? I just love doing this. Sometimes I'm making a track because I'm making it for somebody. Sometimes I'm making a song. Sometimes I'm doing it for a licensing opportunity. Sometimes I'm doing it to express myself. Sometimes I'm doing it to just get an emotion out and then throw it away. There's so many different reasons why you make music. Like it's a language. You said it's a language. We all know it's a language. Do you use language just to order that cupcake or go to the store and get something? No, you use it for everything. That's what music is. Use it for everything. That's why it's in your best interest to practice it the rest of your life, because now you know another language that can speak volumes in ways that the spoken word cannot, right? And when you start to wield it and get better at that, then you start to understand, wow, I use this for everything, And I'm just rattling through my head all these different ways I've used it. So I started allowing myself to make those little 2-bar things. I'm going to share with you a track really quick that years ago when I first got the beta unit of this push, actually the first push, I was making a bunch of tracks. This is one that I made and I just put away for a while. And it just sounded like this. It's a music video by one of the groups I'm in, Chakra Khan. And just this piano loop. And I played it for the singer in this group,
I am learning the new.
Alexandra.
I am courageously
And she said,
discovering me.
oh my God, I love that. I was
I
like,
am
really?
only interested in
That's just a
genuine
2-bar thing I,
interaction.
put in my trash folder. I love it too, though. And she was like, I really love it. I gave it to her. She went down the hall because we all lived together, my group and everything. And a couple weeks later, she gave me this. All these vocals on it. And I was like, ooh, now I hear something completely different. And from that 2-bar piano loop, she wrote a whole song, arranged it and everything. And from then, I decided, you know what this needs? This needs some 808s, which you heard. I need some vocal effects on her, right? I said, you know what? She's got this great chorus. I thought, I need to really amp it up here. I thought, well, the easy thing to do would put drums on this, right? So I went back, added all this other stuff to it. I showed it back to her, and she was like, oh my goodness, that's the best. And we made it our title track for our first album, Love Is At The Core.
It's about love more than anything, 'cause love is at the core. Love is at the Love is at the Love is at the Love is at the We are redefining success. We are
So,
what we thought we knew. We are
this little 2-bar, little nothing of a noodle became a full-on production. One of my favorite. Because I allowed myself to be like, you know what, it's finished, it's perfect, exactly the way it is, until she made it a whole new thing. I have another example of that. And that sample, or the example rather, illustrates the importance of collaboration, right? I have this group, who she's also a part of. It's called Soliloquists of Sound. It's a group it's like been my flagship group for years. Again, we all live together. And one day I was making this track. And I was like, that's cool, has a good groove. But then my homie Swam walked into the room, the MC from the group, and he was like, yo, what is that? He's like, turn that up. And then I had my phone out. He started doing this. I was like, man, that's awesome. He went on, and he got Alex involved. So I was like, that's the song. I don't need to do anything else right now. And I got some other musicians involved. And let's say months later, right? Here's the finished product.
Yes. We come to teach, you come to learn. And most of all, we come to celebrate. Celebrate. Move it. Move it. African people.
So this is actually a tribute to a musician by the name of Fatelah, who made Afro-pop music. Fatelah. Amazing. Look into him. We called it Fatelah, right?
Pitch up a number credit. Make another tongue worth singing. Make another life worth living. Fed for no more gun headache. Pitch up a
So, collaboration. It's awesome to be able to like sit there and make something yourself, but it becomes magic when other people come into the room and start adding what they hear from it. That's what I love about music. It allows me to interface with other people in a way that I otherwise couldn't. To make something that I consider art and then see how it influences them and how they can then Right. So, that was a lot of fun. Now, collaboration is important and it's magical. But sometimes the idea of collaborating with people can hold you back, right? Sometimes thinking you know what you're going to do can hold you back. Remember when I said ignorance is a valuable gift, right? Well, knowing can hold you back. Just like ignorance is a gift. The opposite of it can hold you back. I'm not saying knowing in general is a bad thing. It's great, but as long as you understand that ignorance and knowing are equally valuable, and not one is better than the other. So, there was this song. It's called Bravery Today. I'm going to talk about unexpected results. Hold on. Okay. Oops. It's not working. Okay. Well, this song, I gotta fix that. I made this song with Alexandra from Chakra Khan, and we listened to the whole thing and thought, man, this is great. You know what it really needs at the end is a three-piece jazz band just to go off. And I was like, yeah, that's perfect. And she was like, well, why don't you just do it? And I was like, I could never play what I hear in my head right now. It's just way beyond my skill set. We need a band to do it. And she was like, okay. I was like, I might be able to do it, but it'd probably take me 3 years of practice. She was like, all right, what about this one band? And I was like, oh, they're perfect for it. Long story short, I slacked. I never hit them up. We're about a week away from handing in our album, and I'm just resigning to the fact that, you know what, the song's just going to end here. After your vocals, no kind of epilogue, you know, nothing to come back, no vamp out. It's just going to end here. I slacked, and it's a good song the way it is. But then I kept being like, no, maybe I could get the band to do it. And then one afternoon, I just sat down and I said, you know what? Let me just give it a shot. And 15 minutes later, I superseded what I thought it needed. And I played something that I never was able to play prior. Again, I don't have any like classical training or anything. Everything is just from doing for a really long time. And I swear to you, the bass line that I played, the drums that I played, I just did a pass of each. And 15 minutes later, had this thing that when I showed the band the song later, they couldn't play it. They played the song with the singer at a later show, and they couldn't figure it out. And that's when I realized, yes, collaborating with other people is magic, but you also have to understand there's a part of you you don't know yet, right? And that's why ignorance is a gift, right? In the studio, because you're getting to know yourself all the time. And there's a part of you that's ahead of you where you think you are, right? And that person can always teach you something. That's why it's important to trust yourself, because who you are knows way more than you do. Does that make sense? Yeah. Who you are knows way more about you than you do. And I'm just going to share this part of the song. Like, it still trips me out. Like, this is all me playing on push. No. Okay, I actually filmed some of it, but I'm just going to go right to it. So this is the end of the song Bravery today. You know what? This isn't the updated version. Ah. So So this chord progression, right? This is something that I have no idea what I was playing, but it sounded good to me. And when I brought it to the band, they were like, I don't even know what to play. They had to like kind of transpose it to chords that they knew. It didn't have that magic. So while it gets to the end of the song, I just want to reiterate that had I just believed that I knew who I was, I never would have shown myself I was more. This is something that goes with your whole career as a musician. Be open to who you are. Be open to the fact that what you want is pointing you in the direction that's going to give you the best possible result, even if at first that turns out to be a mistake. Your ignorance is a gift just as much as knowing is a gift, just as long as you treat them equally. Knowing everything is not everything, right? And being able to trust who you are allows you to always be led in the right direction. So if you take nothing from what I say from today, tomorrow, the next day, remember that, because anything I say is dwarfed by that fact. The fact that you don't have to listen to what I'm saying, as long as you listen to you. And that's really all I'm telling you to do. In the studio, it's going to give you the best gifts that you can ever have. And it's going to give you a lot of gifts in life that are going to allow you to continue doing that art.
Saves our tomorrow.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you guys. I hope you have an awesome, awesome weekend. I can't wait to talk to you more tomorrow. There'll be time for questions tomorrow. There'll be time for, all the other stuff that we're going to get into. But I just really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, DiViNCi. Give it up. It starts here. It starts here now. So you have some time off. Get a bite to eat. But what I will say, right around the corner, we have a lunchtime concert called Cloning a Dinosaur. And it's in B54, and the piece runs twice, one at 1 and one at 1:30. It's by my colleague, Dr. B. And it's a piece that Dr. B and I actually performed last year in China. So it's all on a modular synthesizer and modular multi-channel. And we just got a call from NASA. They said, Dr. B, we want our spaceship back. So have a good break, and we'll see everybody at 2 o'clock. Get to your sessions early.